Hi, my name is Robin Wong. I'm a photographer based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I have here with me the 7Artisans 35mm F0.95. And I want to share my experience using this lens in this video. Let's do this! Before we dive in, here are some important disclaimers. I have no affiliation to 7Artisans. They didn't contact me. No one asked me to do this review. I bought this lens, the 7Artisans 35mm F0.95, with my own money. So this is an independent review. I'm sharing my experience as a photographer. This is not a technical analysis. You will not see graphs, charts, or any technical data. I'm sharing plenty of photographs taken with this lens, and I'm sharing my user experience shooting with this lens extensively. I'm sure some of you will ask, Robin, what happened? Why did you buy a manual focus lens? Didn't you say no autofocus, no go for Robin? That is still true. I generally prefer to shoot with autofocus, and I'm buying this lens just for fun. I did have the Kamlan 50 f1.1 before, and I've made a video about that lens. I'll put the link to the video up here. The Kamlan f1.1 manual focusing lens, it does exhibit plenty of flaws. There is the softness and light bloom when shooting wide open. The bokeh is really harsh. There's not much that I like about the lens, but I have to admit, it was really fun shooting with the 50 f1.1. I've given that lens away to a friend. I no longer have that lens, but this 7Artisans 35mm F0.95 got me curious. I was really curious about the 35mm focal length. You see, I've been shooting a lot with 45 and 25. The 35 sits right in between the 45 and 25, and I'm just really interested to see how I can frame my subjects using the 35 focal length. I think this will be really interesting. And there is no autofocus lens for micro four thirds with an f0.95 bright opening. This aperture f0.95 is like amazing. You can see in the dark at night. So I'm also curious to see what I can do with the f0.95 aperture. And of course, this lens is really cheap. I bought it at about $90 US. To me, for a lens at f0.95 wide open aperture, I think that's a steal. Even if I don't like it, I can sell it off, or I can just give it to a friend. There's no lose situation here. I personally really like the look and design of the 7Artisans 35mm F0.95 lens. The lens body is in all black, it looks really sleek, and there are red and white markings on the body itself. There are only two controls on the lens, the manual focusing ring and the aperture ring. Both rings are very smooth as you turn it. Unfortunately, the aperture ring is clickless, meaning that as you change the aperture, as you turn the aperture ring, you don't have any tactile feedback, so you wouldn't know every single stop of aperture that you have changed. The only way to tell is to actually look at the lens itself as you change the f number. This is a downside for most photographers. I think a lot of photographers, as you use this lens, you prefer to have some kind of tactile feedback, but hey, I don't think this is a deal breaker. It is a very cheap lens after all, and if you are a videographer, maybe you will prefer to have the clickless aperture as you are doing some video shooting while you're changing the aperture in the middle of filming. Perhaps it'll be smoother without any clicks. The build quality of this 7Artisans 35 f0.95 is excellent. The entire lens body is made of metal. It feels really solid in hand. There are no creaky parts. It doesn't feel flimsy. It feels like a really solid and well constructed lens. The metal mount is made of metal as well. It does inspire confidence, and I think this lens, as you use it, you won't feel like you're using a cheap lens at all. The lens weighs about 369 grams. This is not a light lens. As you pick it up, you can feel a little of heft, but it does balance well on any Olympus bodies. I've used this lens on my own EM5 Mark III. I have no issue handling this lens for long shooting durations. It feels very balanced on the camera, and there's no issue whatsoever. I don't feel any strain on my fingers, wrist, neck, shoulder, whatever. It is still pretty much a very small lens, and it will fit very well with any smaller Olympus cameras. Image quality-wise, to be entirely honest, there really is nothing to write home about. Yes, the lens can render some very sharp images, but at wide open f0.95, it is not exactly that sharp. The images are not soft either. You can see that it is in focus. The sharpness is quite decent if you ask me, if you can manage to get the shots in focus. But if you compare this with any of the budget cheap kit lenses from Olympus or Panasonic or anyone, the kit lens will render sharper results. So f0.95, I know that this is a cheap lens and maybe I'm expecting a lot shooting wide open at f0.95, but hey, expecting it to be at least close or on par with kit lens sharpness, I don't think that's too far off a stretch. As you stop down the aperture to f1.4, immediately you will notice a drastic improvement when it comes to sharpness and contrast rendering. And you stop down further to f2, f2.8, the images get even better. At f2.8 or f4, the images are as good as any other modern autofocus lenses from Micro Four Thirds. You probably won't be able to tell any difference between this lens and other lenses. But hey, if you're buying a 35 f0.95 lens, you would want to shoot at f0.95 wide open most of the time. And unfortunately, this lens will not give you the best results shooting at f0.95. The sharpness is just not that great. Being an f0.95 lens, this can render super shallow depth of field. And this is not a wide-angle lens. 35mm, that's equivalent to 70mm in 35mm format. Being a medium telephoto lens, it does offer a little bit of background compression. Added the medium telephoto reach with the bright open f0.95 aperture, you can effectively blur the background off. Sometimes there is just too much blur, you don't see anything at all in the background. And I think this will be something really useful if you want to shoot portraits with that very soft look and you really want that as much blur as you can get. You really want to isolate your subject effectively and you don't want to see any background at all. This is a very good lens to use. I must admit, one thing that I really love about this 7Artisans 35 f0.95 is the bokeh. The out of focus area rendering, the blur quality is excellent. The background blur, especially shooting at wide open f0.95, looks really smooth, buttery, creamy. It just looks simply delicious. It looks so pleasing that I try my best to shoot almost all my shots at wide open f0.95. And the good news is, even if you stop down to f1.4, f2, f2.8, and f4, and even beyond that, at any aperture, the out of focus area, the bokeh quality is still maintained. The smoothness, the buttery, creamy look is still there. Of course, as you stop down the aperture more and more, it gets less blurry, you get more depth of field, you see more in the background, but that blur, that beautiful look, the smooth quality is still there, even all the way to f4, f5.6, or even f8. I think this is truly something that I feel I'm very impressed with shooting with this lens, and that itself is good enough for me to want to use this lens more and more. If you shoot at wide open f0.95, you will not be able to get that super round shape bokeh. If you want to have circular bokeh, you have to stop down to maybe f1.4 or beyond, then the bokeh bowl shapes will be perfectly circular. You'll get a little bit off shape if shooting at f0.95. To me, that's not a problem at all. I'm perfectly fine with the shape of the bokeh. The background blur still looks fantastic. And you don't see any onion rings or any weird problems, any harshness, all this very nervous looking bokeh or whatsoever. You don't get that with this 7Artisans 35 f0.95. I think of all the manual lenses that I've tried, I admit I haven't tried a lot, this lens has one of the best bokeh that I've seen so far. Being a budget manual focusing lens, I'm also expecting this 7Artisans 35 f0.95 to come with a few flaws. This lens has some serious flare problem. If you shoot it against any source of light, you'll see some serious flare happening all across the frame. And worse, if you shoot at wide open f0.95 against a very strong source of light, you get a very huge blob of flare, this blob of light glow around your image, and it gets really destructive as well. In terms of chromatic aberration, the lens can't really control it very well shooting at wide open f0.95, and even if you stop down to f2 and f2.8, you still see some really serious purple fringing all across the frame, especially in bright areas against some backlit situation with high contrast scenes. I think purple fringing shouldn't be too huge of a problem. If you want to use this lens, you may want to spend a little bit more time correcting the purple fringing or any chromatic aberration in post-processing. You can do that easily with any modern software. It is also worth mentioning that the manual focusing ring has a relatively short throw, meaning that as you turn just a little bit, you will move the focusing to quite a large distance. And I find this to be quite a problem, especially if I want to nail that critical focus. Just a little bit of movement can throw everything off, especially if you're dealing with very bright apertures like f0.95. At first, I went out shooting with using the focus peaking. Focus peaking is good enough for you to estimate which area is in focus, but if you truly want to nail that critical focus, I don't think focus peaking is enough. Therefore, during my second outing, when I want to be a little bit more careful on my focus, I actually switched from focus peaking to magnify. I use magnify to really zoom into that one particular area that I want to be in tack sharp focus, and I carefully turn the manual focusing ring to get that focus, that really in focus image. And I truly highly recommend that you use magnify over focus peaking if you want to really get that critical sharp focus with this 35 f0.95, especially if you want to shoot a lot with f0.95. All in all, I did have plenty of fun shooting with this 7Artisans 35 f0.95 manual focusing lens. Yes, manual focusing is a challenge, especially dealing with f0.95's super shallow depth of field, but I still think it is worth it. The beautiful bokeh, the shallow depth of field, super blur background, that f0.95 look, that itself is worth considering getting this lens. And I really enjoy shooting at 35mm for a change, instead of 45mm, which can be quite tight at sometimes, or 25mm to me, which is very wide, it takes in too much background. 35mm offers a balance between these both focal lengths that I've used so much over the years. And I think I'm going to stick around with this lens just to continue shooting with that 35mm perspective. Overall, the lens does give you very good results. It gives you nice bokeh rendering. It does have some flaws. It is not terribly sharp at f0.95, but the sharpness does improve as you stop down to f1.4, f2, f2.8. But I think buying this lens, you're not going for the absolute sharpness. You're actually going for the f0.95 super blur background look. And it does give you that beautiful bokeh. It does have some flaws. Flare is a little bit out of control. Chromatic aberration can be a problem, but I don't think these are deal breakers. For the price that you are paying, $90 US, I think you get a lot out of this 35 f0.95. That's all I have to share about this 7Artisans 35 f0.95. If you found this sharing beneficial, or if you've enjoyed looking at my photographs, please consider buying me a cup of coffee, or you can contribute directly to my PayPal. Any small contribution goes a long way and will definitely help me to continue making videos like this and publish them right here. Links in the description below on how you can help. Please also give me a thumbs up, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll definitely see you again in the next one. Until then, please remember to go out and take some photographs. Bye-bye.